Well, the email came out, and it turns out we will be able to interview in person with a podium starting at training camp. Hooray, hooray. I'm Dionne Miller from ABC7. He's Dan Wiederer from the Chicago Tribune. Dan, on a scale of 1 to thrilled, how excited are you?
Thrilled 0.5, I think is where I'm at here. I mean, look, progress, right? I'm accepting of baby steps at this point.
Same.
We are going to be in person, back inside Hallis Hall, talking to the head coach of the Chicago Bears, talking to players right in front of us. They're going to be right there with us and not on a computer screen. And so my voice won't glitch up, as I alluded to in the last video. We are going to be taking steps back toward normal. We won't be back toward normal completely and maybe ever until we step foot inside a locker room again. But at least we get to talk to people in person.
I am so excited. And to be inside Hallis Hall, which means I'm going to start baking again. So I cannot wait for that as well.
You know, my power rankings, it's that, is it Snickerdoodle cake?
Snickerdoodle bars. Yeah, they're a family favorite as well. Yeah, maybe I'll come out strong with that one right out of the gate.
Yeah, and then you save it again for later in the year when you go back to the all-time favorites. Sign me up for that. You know that's number one of my power rankings, and there's a big gap between 1 and 2. That's not to say anything about what's at 2, but it's just those are so damn good.
Well, thank you. I love to bake, but I also I love the fact that we're going to be able to have that camaraderie in the media room like we have in the past. I'm really jazzed about this. So yes, we are beyond thrilled for this news. But I want to talk a little bit more about what we're looking for here as we start training camp and head into this 2021 season, because last year was such a weird one-off that it's hard to know where expectations lie. And I feel like Matt Nagy's under a lot of pressure in a different way than we've seen him before. And I want to see how he responds to that.
Yeah, look, Matt Nagy, 2018 Coach of the Year, the guy that was mic dropping at the Bears 100 convention and giving the boom sound. The shine has come off of that guy for a lot of people in Chicago, right? Fans have been frustrated at 8-8 and 8-8, and not just 8-8 and 8-8, but a struggling offense that has not gotten unlocked, that hasn't had the identity that has been promised for 2+ years now, right? And so now it's like, what does Matt do with this? Does he understand that a lot of franchises in the league may not have given him this 4th year, that the frustration and the impatience may have grown so large internally that he would have been launched, and he gets a new lease on life. They luck into Justin Fields to a large extent in the draft in April. And now all of a sudden, Matt's got a chance to get back on that springboard and propel his approval rankings in Chicago back up a level. To your point, he hasn't had this level of sort of outside heat on him at any point in his career as a head coach. It's going to be interesting to see how he handles it. Matt is a very naturally self-confident person. He's a guy who believes in what he's doing, even when it's not working clearly the last couple of years. And so now it's a matter of pairing that self-confidence and that belief with results on the field that give the outside world confidence in what you're selling.
Absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see how he handles that, because again, he may have felt there's always pressure in a performance-based business like the NFL is, but I just feel like it's different now. The window is smaller, right? He doesn't have like unending time to figure this out. It has to be figured out quickly, and we need to see evidence that it's being figured out quickly. And I think that's where I'm anxious to see if he can adjust to what is in front of him and not be so, as we've said so many times, so hell bent on this plan and this blueprint that we can break from that and kind of cater things to the personnel that he has that has the ability to do things that Mitch Trubisky never could.
Yeah, listen, Justin Fields is a different animal. We talked in our last video about his presence, his ability to just command sort of confidence from everyone else around him. What also is intriguing about Justin Fields is his skill set is ridiculous as a runner, as a thrower, as a guy who can see the game and feel the game in a certain way. It's head and shoulders above what Mitch Trubisky was coming in here as a rookie. And so the Bears have this huge belief in Justin Fields to be their long-awaited, long-term answer at the most important position in sports for a decade or longer. And they've now entrusted Matt Nagy to oversee the early stages of his development with his coaching staff. And so this is a high-stakes task that Matt Nagy faces, right? And meanwhile, as he's trying to get Justin Fields ready to be that long-term answer, he's got to prepare Andy Dalton, a newcomer to the Bears, a newcomer to this offense, to be ready to play at a winning level for as long as they need him to play at a winning level. You got to juggle some things there, right? It's going to be like juggling fiery knives in August and September as he tries to figure out both sides of that equation. Matt's got a lot on his plate. Matt believes he can handle everything that's on his plate and that he's got the support staff around him to do it.
Yeah.
Got to get this offense unlocked at some point, Dionne. They have to be able to score, 25 points plus on a regular basis. And we can't just keep going back to the stat sheet and going, okay, it's been, 14 games since they had 50 yards. 10 of the last 12 games, they've failed to score 20 points as an offense. Those days have to be over. If they're not, then Chicago is going to be in a state of massive dread when we get into the 2022 offseason.
And it's on him. He's calling the plays again. He's got the quarterback he wants. It's in his hands. He has to perform. But in light of that, in that pressure that he's feeling and making the transition with new quarterbacks, what realistically are expectations for this season for the Bears? An extra game. They have a lot. I feel like a lot at stake.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, what's real?
It's a complicated riddle, to be honest with you. You and I talked when the schedule came out, and I think we are in agreement with most people in the masses that this is a team that is going to be around 8-9, 9-8. They're going to be on that fence trying to figure out which way they can go. I had slipped up at some point and said the Bears look like they're back on that 8-8 road that we've long talked about. And somebody said on Twitter, they can't go 8-8 this year. And my response was, oh, they can. They can go 8-8. They just have to play a 17th game after that. Right. And then it'll determine whether they're 9-8 or 8-9. And I truly think that that's maybe where this season is headed, where they go to Minnesota for the season finale at 8-8, trying to figure out whether they're an above 500 team or below 500 team. But so much of this season is about what does Justin Fields' development look like at the later portions of this year, that the record of the 2021 Bears doesn't mean a lot to me, right? It doesn't, because this is all about when will Justin Fields be ready to play high-level winning football. The question, Dionne, and I don't know that there's a lot of clarity on this yet, is what are the expectations of George McCaskey and Ted Phillips above Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, and what is the bar they want to see set? Remember, we went into last season, and George McCaskey basically stated straightforwardly that he wanted to see if the 2020 Bears were more like the 2019 Bears or the 2018 Bears. The answer was as clear could be, right? They were the 2019 Bears. Yes. They were the 8-8 football team that struggled offensively and couldn't get Mitch Trubisky unlocked. Okay, there were no consequences for that. There were no ramifications for that.
No.
It was a couple of days of meetings at Hallis Hall, and then Ted and George reaffirmed their belief in Ryan Matt to continue leading this football team. Well, now, going into 2021, I believe George's word was progress and Ted's was improvement. I may have flip-flopped those.
Right.
That's what they told us in January they wanted to see out of the Bears. Okay, well, what is that, right? And is there clarity with your coaches on what's expected of them? Because, Dean, here's where I get tripped up.
Yeah.
If there isn't that clarity, and Matt Nagy feels like I have to win 10 games or produce a playoff berth to keep my job past this season, that may increase the temptation to stick with Andy Dalton longer.
I know.
Because he's a veteran who's not going to get you beat, where a rookie quarterback, even with promise, may get you beat 2 or 3 games, right? May throw a pick six at an ill-timed spot in the game, and you go, okay, well, we just lost the game. We absolutely had to win for my job security. So if there isn't clarity from above on what your job status is and what's the expectation, this could put you in a real pickle as an organization of not knowing when to turn the page at that quarterback position. And if they don't have that figured out,
no, I totally agree. If I hear Matt Nagy say we're going to work on figuring out the why, I mean, if I hear him say that at any point during the first 4 games of the season, like for those reasons, I'm out. Like I can't get on board with that. And I feel like the McCaskies are also going to say, we've heard that too many times. So this is also my fear is, okay, let's say they win a couple games, whatever, they get into the meat of the season, you lose 3-4 in a row, what that will feel like for Nagy and what he'll start throwing against the wall, because that's what we've seen in the past is that let's have somebody else call the plays and let's move this person around and let's try this and it was just trying a bunch of things. I feel like he has to show that progress that they're looking for, and it has to be very much so out of the gate. I think, it has to be quick. They have to see that quickly, or I feel like he is gonna start feeling that heat. Although, like you just said, not many teams would give their coach another chance or their GM another chance at this point. And so that at this point, the McCaskies believe in what Ryan and Matt are doing, and they like them so much as people. Are they gonna be willing to have more patience and have the 2021 Bears look like the 19 and 20 Bears, or are they gonna feel like they saw some progress? You're right. There's a lot there.
Here's where patience is gained. When you draft Justin Fields at number 11, you know how much the outside tenor changed in the city and how all this anger and ire and dread from the fans turned into this unbridled hope, right? And so now all of a sudden, folks go into the season with a little bit more juice than certainly they had at the end of last year, than certainly they had when this offseason started, to say, okay, maybe this is the secret sauce that gets things unlocked. It's going to be really interesting to see where things go. Look, we got into November of 2020, and we were hearing from Matt Nagy that the offense still needed to find its identity, which is what we were hearing in July of 2019. And it was like, well, when are you going to find it, right? Like, you just keep talking about finding an identity. You haven't found it yet. Now you're changing from, Mitch to Nick, back to Mitch, and this, that, and the other thing. They cannot. You said you don't want to hear learning the whys. I don't want to hear anything more about identity. I want to know what the Bears' identity is, and I don't want to have to ask questions about it. I don't want to hear them having to explain it. You should watch a Bears game on Sundays and say, that's the Bears' offense, right? That's their identity. Yes. This is who they are. These are their playmakers. This is how they get things unlocked, and let's see where it goes.
Yes, totally agree. I don't know if we can continue debating when I agree with you, but you're exactly right. You're exactly right. I want to be able to see that. And again, I go back to this is something that we need to see developing during training camp. We need to see that identity coming out as they get started and they get together. They finally get the group together on both sides of the ball. We need to see that identity coming out on offense. And it starts with Matt.
This may be crazy for me to say, but I was very concerned about the record in 2020, and it was 8-8. And that, believe me, that playoff appearance, that's 2 playoff appearances in 3 years that they talk about, throw it out the window. It doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
Well, this year it's strange because I don't really care about the final record. Obviously, you don't want it to be 4-13 and everything falling apart around you. But if they're hovering around 500, a game or 2 above, maybe a game below, I don't care about it if I'm seeing from Justin Fields what the Chargers saw out of Justin Herbert last year, what the Bengals saw out of Joe Burrow. If you have a clear-cut idea that you did find your answer and you say, okay, Justin Fields, starting quarterback 2022, 2023, 2024, and you start writing it out, then the record to me doesn't matter, right? Because that's what the Bears have searched for forever. That's where this whole clarity and the confusion comes in, and I don't fully trust in George and Ted to know how to sort of navigate through those weird waters and the confusion and the clouds to figure out, to know that the franchise is on the right direction or to guess that the franchise is on the direction. That has to happen from above. Matt Nagy has to help it happen from below, right? For the Bears to be set up for long-term success. That's where this year is really weird to me because, again, like, this is a team that everyone's excited about because of Fields, but yet we're all expecting them to be right around 500. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute in some ways.
It doesn't. But Ted Phillips, if everything else is there, then we should see that the quarterback makes the difference that they need to start winning the games that they expect to win. So I agree with you that it doesn't. If we see Justin Fields become the franchise quarterback they've been dying to have, then you're right. The record this year doesn't matter as much. But I also feel like they have to move somewhere. If it is, again, another 8-9 season, if it's another 500 season, and we don't see that from the quarterback position. So there's just a lot to watch. And that's what makes it exciting. So
it's exciting and no doubt. And listen, Matt, to his credit, I think has been very understanding from day one here of what this is, right? You're going to ride the highs when the wave is good and the wave is there. But the last 2 years haven't been great. And I think Matt understands that the outside criticism comes with the territory. He hasn't been overly defensive or taking shots at fans or the media or whatnot yet, right? But I think he has an understanding of what his job is in a market like this. To his credit, he's got that understanding. Now he's got to put results behind it. He's got to put direction behind it. It's going to be interesting to watch. Obviously, training camp and preseason ahead. And then the regular season, Dionne, it's not that far off. It's only like 7 or 8 weeks away. So here we go.
Crazy. That is crazy and wonderful. And here's to in-person interviews and, dear God, getting back in the locker room at some point, right?
I booked flights. I've got flights booked to Nashville for the 3rd preseason game, to LA for the season opener, for Cleveland, the 2nd road game of the year in September.
So exciting.
I've got flights. That's important progress in 2021.
Now it's on the Bears to show up to.
No doubt. All right. Remember to like this video, subscribe to this channel. We will have a lot more content as training camp gets going. It'll be a nonstop flow of it. We're going to have conversation. We're going to have baked goods in the media room.
This
is excitement galore. So follow along with us. We'll give you a weekly report on what Dionne's baking. I'll give it a rating each week. It'll be a whole segment. It'll be great.